All right, guys, it's a lot of updates. We got a lot of development stories now. I guess the biggest thing, the latest, most relevant information, the World Health Organization's latest daily briefing now. They're doing daily briefings from here on out on the situation. It's ever evolving. It's unbelievable at the dynamic of it, and there's just so much uh actually so little information actually coming from the World Health Organization, but we have a ton of just kind of statistical information from media outlets based upon past outbreaks and our experiences with them, which isn't totally irrelevant information, but considering that this is something that is new to us and this baffling scientists across the world, they still haven't figured out the origins of this yet. So we got a lot of questions, and there's preliminary data that's it's kind of disturbing with the numbers, and but we know the whole situation is disturbing. And I think maybe our downfall is going to be waiting on I guess concrete evidence. I know it's there's got to be there's in a situation like this, you got to appreciate the fact that there's going to be protocols and certain criteria have to be met. This isn't being done on what they personally feel like. At this point, I don't think it's all protocol, and what I'm getting from this, and I don't know. I think it might be, um, it's a tough situation for them too, right? Like they're probably never dealt with a situation like this before, and they have ongoing crises already around the world. There's they got a big measles outbreak in Sudan. Africa's dealing with outbreaks, you know what I mean? And these guys have been busy there, and this happens. And we're getting mixed information everywhere. Time Magazine's reporting that, or not Time, but CNN and a lot of people, and I kind of knew this information before it hit the mainstream media about the Chinese government was arresting doctors who were speaking out against this and telling citizens not to talk about it or post it. There was an unconfirmed case of a journalist being killed, and the police were right there, and nothing really happened as towards to stop it. So and it's unconfirmed, but it looks genuine, right? And it fits everything that was going on with the situation. And there's a lot of information. There's tons, and they're telling us, you got to be wary about misinformation and rumors and spreading. Well, you know what I mean? Yes, I understand that. Yeah, and you can't really confirm anything unless you confirm something. But I think if the world was able to see maybe exactly what was going on there, it might be a little different approach to this. I don't know. It seems like the gravity of the situation, for the type of response that we're seeing, by locking down the whole province, or sorry, the whole country of China. Started out with Hubei province, and the city of Wuhan, and there's a lot of concerning evidence that points, to a possible, um, you know, unnatural event, let's say. So, there's a lot of speculation going around, and we're every right to speculate because I've been watching this for quite some time and following everything I could possibly absorb, day and night, and making a timeline of things and trying to stream and get the most information I can and kind of and just kind of absorb that and step back and look at a bigger broader picture with that information. And I think that's what the World Health Organization is doing too, but they got to get confirmation data. And I think that might be our downfall in this whole thing because they say it's spreading very fast. There's a cruise ship, and it's docked outside of Japan, and they won't let anybody off. Now this happened yesterday around 1 o'clock Japan time. It probably happened earlier than that, but there was concern that there was a man on board or a passenger on board, that traveled to central China or mainland China, and he was only there for a few hours, but he was in Tokyo, and then he got on cruise, or well, he got off the cruise ship, and then he got sick right when he got off, and these are all reports, and you got to take all the information with a grain of salt. But what we have here is a cruise ship quarantined, and there's now 10 cases out of the first 31 results that came back out of 274 that they've taken. I'm sure they have probably at the point for testing everybody now, considering that the first set of results came back and a third of them were positive, and there was only one known passenger who had been. There could have been other ones infected that that didn't know it, or what I mean, because the cruise line did sail from China, I think in its past voyage. So now don't quote me on that, but I think one of the last trips or the itineraries for this cruise ship, and this is a high class cruise ship, by the way, super high line. So most of the people on here are going to be retirees, and in the older population. I don't think there's going to be very many of the young demographic on there. It is a very luxurious cruise line. I've seen some of the videos of the inside, just kind of like, and it's like, it's immaculate. So if there are young people on here, it'd be very few in between, right? And just given the destinations and tourist kind of things, it would fit, the older age demographic for sure. That would be the most on this ship, which is concerning as well, because everybody on there, they all have the definitely a weaker immune system, or probably already a lot of underlying issues. Not saying that is completely conclusive that this only affects people with underlying issues or age. It doesn't. The reports coming out from Canada saying we got like a 20-year-old girl infected, and there was people who flew from the woman flew from Shanghai, and the business partners that she met in Germany, like there was they were healthy businessmen, middle-aged, healthy. So it's not affecting a certain demographic. It seems to be affecting everybody the same, but we're only getting reports in from China, what China is releasing, and I don't know how credible China is right now, considering they were arresting their doctors when they were trying to speak out about this. And this I don't know, Dr. Lee here, he it's incredible. Let's just go through this and take a quick watch if you haven't watched it already.
Dr. Li Wenliang went from treating patients to becoming one. The 34-year-old ophthalmologist diagnosed Saturday with the Wuhan coronavirus. But if action had been taken when he and others started sounding alarms, the severity of the outbreak might have been understood sooner. Struggling to communicate, Lee spoke with CNN briefly by phone. You can hear the hospital machines pulsing in the background. It was back in late December when Lee first warned friends on WeChat about a SARS-like disease going around. Lee sent a group message saying that a test result from a patient quarantined at the hospital where he worked showed a patient had a coronavirus. But hours after hitting send, Wuhan city health officials tracked Lee down, questioning where he got the information. Within days, they closed the suspected source of the virus, this seafood market, and they announced the outbreak. But instead of being praised, Lee got a call from Wuhan City Police. With Lee coughing too much and breathing too poorly to speak by phone, we asked Lee by text, "How did you feel when this happened?" "I felt a little afraid I would be detained, afraid my family would worry," Lee responded. He agreed to sign this document, admitting to spreading rumors online and severely disrupting social order. It reads, "We want you to cooperate with the police and listen to our reminder and stop the illegal act. Can you do that?" Lee answered, "Yes, I can." In the
Like they kind of just do other reports saying how they arrested the doctors, the other doctors, and suppressed what the citizens could say and upload to YouTube or like any of these Chinese social media sites. So they were scrubbing a lot of information, and we know they were. Now we know they were on the world stage. Now that brings me to another concerning concerning thing, because the World Health Organization came out and said today, we can neither confirm nor deny that China covered this up. They got to go on proof, on facts. They can't just say, yeah, they did, even though they have a probably really good, idea like everybody else, now that this is all coming out, that they actually did. So we can't rely on China's information. You know what I mean? We can't. What they're telling us, and it was funny. They were the first ones to sequence the genome. Of course, well, they would have, because it happened in their place and it broke out there first. And made that online. But now there's, I guess, 56 different genome types available. I guess, to the scientific community through the World Health Organization for the scientists to study this, right? And they still don't know where it came from. They don't know. They said they don't know how it's being they know how it's transmit human to human, but they don't know if it jumped from animal to human. And you think, with the scientific, minds of the world all doing this right now, they would have that, it's like a fingerprint. You know what I mean? You can almost track it back to they'd be, unless there's like some kind of new evolved animal somewhere that's not in our database that hasn't been sequenced or something. That'd be the, and I'm not a scientist by any means. I'm not refuting what they're saying, but I'm only questioning all the things here, because there's so much lack of information. But this thing is absolutely huge, and it's in really bad in China, and we know the numbers are way off. I was watching videos, and and I'm pretty confident in the authenticity of them, given the demeanor of everybody, the situation. I've taken everything into effect, and you can only verify it as much as you can verify any video on YouTube, right? So, and you're like, well, wow, it's actually a lot worse than what it's going on here. But this hasn't hit the main stage, and nobody's really given any big information. But except the World Health Organization yesterday gave some very big information about that it is being transmitted asymptomatically. They do have scientific cases documented now, more than one, more than two. So it's happening, and it's happening in the U.S. It's happening in Vancouver. The woman in Vancouver, Canada's latest one. We got 5 now. It was a person who was close to a family member, and then now they're saying, well, it was only close contact. Well, you got a ship full of people, yeah. If it's going close contact, that's not the actual ship. Docked off here, it's the Princess Cruise, Diamond Princess, but I think it's run by Princess Lines. And that they're going to quarantine the people on that ship 14 days. You can't do that. You can't solve it like that. It's only going to spread even more. And even if they're using disinfecting measures and what they think they know, we don't actually know anything about this. We don't, scientists have been trying to figure out. Now there's news reports coming out claiming, oh, well, they found a vaccine. I seen one news report, and this guy was like, yeah, they found it. You know what I mean? Not in so many words, but he was basically given the worst information I could ever possibly see from a news outlet. I don't know. Maybe he just got some really bad information somewhere and ran with it. But regardless, it's so much misinformation, and we have no idea. The World Health Organization came on in their latest update today and said there's no known positive, anything vaccine-wise. But therapeutic things, they are testing certain drugs. Now they're sending an HIV drug in there. There's like Pfizer's got one, and I don't know, there's another company, Aola or something, and they're sending 500 of these, um, I guess, samples in there, and they're going to monitor these people very closely. And um, yeah, it's there's nothing about a cure. It's just so much misleading headlines everywhere, because the World Health Organization comes out and says, you know, limited limited data, basically just about their operations that they're doing is basically mostly the data that we're getting, because they don't have any concrete scientific data. And are we waiting to, is that going to be the downfall, to wait for this data? It's still, time is ticking away, like, and he says multiple times in almost every broadcast that he's done lately since, he said, this is, we got to act now. We have a window of opportunity to get this. We still have a chance. Like, those are big words, and I'm not exaggerating when I mean, like, that's, he was saying we only have a window of opportunity to stop this, but it's got to be at a global level. I don't know. Are they just building people up to give them the, instead of just coming out and landing it on everybody? Like, and is that going to be a downfall? But like, we're waiting on data. We're waiting on, and they can't confirm, or, but people and reporters have huge questions. So let's go through this World Health Organization update, and I took out some pieces of information that are, I think, very relevant to this release. Anyway, everything else is just kind of, land-based operations, and sending kits to certain places, which is great, because they're going to be able to get more frontline numbers. But at the same time, they said they only have 38% of complete case files. That is very disturbing. How can they make accurate models if information coming in is completely skewed? And that's a scary thought, you know what I mean? Like, how bad actually is the models off? Like, they are not even close to being accurate, with only 38% of complete cases. So how can they plug these figures in and get it? And like, it's a disaster, logistical disaster for gathering data right now. And I don't think these guys are ready. It's almost like they're shitting the bed. It seems to be, they're like, well, we're sending a bunch of more supplies to China, and a bunch of more resources, and a bunch of more. Should we be sending all that there if it's already, too far gone? Like, we gotta question that right now. Like, this thing, we don't know. We could be throwing all our initial resources at this, and then once we found out, oh Jesus, this is actually something, like, and get some real data on it. By then, like, half of our resources are gone to support China, which was already, sadly to say, maybe, a no confidence, right? Like, they could have been. That's it. Like, we don't know how bad this is. We don't know. And the World Health Organization is not releasing any data. But this guy flew there one day. It was kind of just do, and the reports are coming in, and he got a chance to fly there to Ground Zero. Comes back the next day, reconvenes an emergency meeting, and declares a world health, problem. He goes there and sees what happened, like, whatever he's seen at Ground Zero. He came right back and reconvened the meeting, which, was unscheduled. So, and then declares a global emergency. So we got to take all this into consideration, right? They're factual based people. They're policy based people. They're right to the books. You got to realize that there's probably a lot of pressure from the economic side of things, that is weighing in on their decisions of safety here. And they can't make any rash decisions to say, well, we got to shut, like, everything down right now and go on pause, like China, like the whole world. um but I'm almost certain that that's what's going to have to happen if we need to stop this. Like, there's no other way. There really isn't. Everybody's just going to have to take, like, a storm day, not a storm day, but maybe a couple of weeks, um until this thing, it stops spreading so hard, and we get a better idea. But we're not even taking any precautionary measures, except wash your hands, and be extra vigilant around, like, don't get too close to people who are sneezing and coughing. Like, that's what they're telling us do, for, and, like, we're depending on these people to give us, at least a heads up, even if, like, They are very statistical based people, and they're probably going to overanalyze this to the point where it's going to be like, well, okay, yeah, we should do this, and then all of a sudden, well, now it's too late. Just look at China. They hid it for different reasons. For whatever reasons, they concealed it, whether it was to look better, like not to look bad on the world stage, so it didn't affect markets or however. But the fact is that they did conceal it, and they did arrest the doctors. You know what I mean? Those police don't go in there and just arrest, their medical staff. Like, come on now, without orders from higher up. So they did suppress it, and for whatever reason, that's very concerning as well. Because they waited, and now look at it there. It's beyond what you think you will probably envision right now, especially in the epicenter. A lot of the images coming out of there are older images. There's very limited coming out of there recently. And regardless, we know this thing is spreading. But yeah, let's just check out this here. I kind of keep rambling and babbling. So anyway,
we understand that people are worried and concerned, and rightly so. But this is not a time for fear. This is not a time for panic. It's a time for rational, evidence-based action and investment.
There you go. It's time for evidence-based, right? They're not going to go and make decisions until the evidence is in. No matter if like the goddamn world is melting down around us, they'd still be like, well, we're waiting on a couple of more studies from this university here just to make sure. That's almost what it seems like right now. And I hope they figure, this cruise ship is almost a godsend. I hate to say it, I really do. It's not that I'm cold-hearted in any way by any means. I'm kind of looking at the silver lining in this, because we got this cruise ship that has infected people now, and you can guarantee, or I hope, that the best of the best people are involved in this right now to take statistical analysis of how this travels, of progression of cases, because it is almost like a mini city, right? So you could scale that up pretty easily. So it's a sad situation for sure, because I don't think those people are going to get off there. And what do? You know what I mean? All you could do is just turn it into a makeshift hospital. Like, you couldn't take them all off. There's 3,700 people we don't know what this is. They are taking the most infected off at this moment. The people that have tested positive and the ones who are, ill. But everybody is kind of quarantined to their rooms. But it's a very luxurious, like, if there was a way to go down, like, that's where you'd probably want to do it. I'm sorry, but I'm just stating the obvious and the facts and stuff. It's a sad situation. I don't know. As the world's like paying attention now, everybody's starting to pay attention. I think the World Health Organization is going to get some very good, unfortunately, but it's a silver lining situation. They're going to get some good data out of this. And find out a little more, because we've only had limited cases, right? And the data hasn't been coming in even from around other countries. It's not just China that's data's skewed. It's everywhere. And you know what I mean? There's certain healthcare systems that are already stressed. For they're dealing with not pandemics. They're dealing with their own local outbreaks. And Sudan, Africa, like those are big ones. There's like 2.5 million people, I think, in Sudan or something like that, that's affected by this measles outbreak there too. So it's big. It's the laps are full, and now this has just dropped in it. So, and this all came down from one man who flew from Hong Kong to Tokyo, boarded the cruise ship on January 20th. So these people have been on the cruise ship since January 20th. They've been on there for pretty well. I don't know if it's a 3-week cruise or something, but regardless, this has been on there for a while. And it's a big situation, right? the whole planet's in a big situation, really. Um, and the information coming out is it's shocking, and it's also very limited in what the official statements are coming from. The World Health. But we have, we have local healthcare and public health, saying, well, there's zero risk to the public, and it's very low risk. And how can you say that if we know nothing about this? And they say, and then they get these analysts up there and experts, and they always talk about, these graphs comparing to past outbreaks and saying, well, we did this before, and we're prepared because we learned from past things. I really don't. World Health Organization just came out and asked for $500 billion, or actually $750 billion, just to deal with this for the next 3 months in China or wherever. I don't know. It shouldn't be money at this stage. I don't know. I guess we're waiting on data to go to that next level. But you know what I mean? It's like, here you got these people being like, well, we need to borrow some money from. I don't know. I'm sorry. It is just like a shit show of skewed information, and everybody's saying something different. I don't know. I've been watching the news pretty closely, and you got all these different channels, different countries. You know what I mean? Here's a picture of the inside of that ship. You know what I mean? That is a luxury class ship, right? People are getting treated very well there. But what about the people in Wuhan, in China? You know what I mean? You gotta think that place was melting down weeks ago. It really was. It was melting down at the core weeks ago. Now I don't know the situation because a lot of stuff hasn't been coming out of there. But you have confirmations from CNN saying, well, we got the doctor, was arrested and his friends were arrested. You know what I mean? Saying that they were spreading false information and disrupting social order. It's you know what I mean? And then the World Health Organization sitting here saying, well, we need more information. Yeah, we need more data. I think everybody should be taking the situation into their own hands because these ass clowns are policy-based, factual based people, and they're not going to act unless like I said, the world could be burning around them, and they'd be like, well, we just got a couple more studies to do just to confirm this. And I think it is, regardless of time, we don't have it. Don't have time. In the U.S. it just keeps popping up, and the U.S. has got almost 10,000 people in quarantine right now. You got to separate everybody now. Everybody, you got to separate everybody. Everybody's got to separate. Everything's got to stop. Too fucking bad with the markets, because the markets aren't going to exist if there's no people around, to run them. If everybody's sick or if everybody's dying, you know what I mean? Nobody's going to go home to work. So you got to do this anyway. Right? And it's just going to be like a vacation, for, a couple of weeks or whatever, and until we figure out, there'd have to be still limited, you couldn't shut down the essential services, you'd have to have every level involved in this and get everybody prepped to keep the main line, at least a main line open so that these limited stuff is coming in, right? And food supplies and, fuel and oil, you've got to keep all that open. Or would they just weigh the statistics on this, because these are statistical people, and you got to think that you're not really any more than a number to them right now. So they could weigh this option and say, well, the risk of letting people know regards versus not letting them know, or not telling them, it's like, well, if we tell them, the whole fucking place burns down. We don't tell them, well, the whole place burns down. Maybe, you know what I mean? We don't know how deadly this is. They're only reporting certain cases of China, and yes, we are seeing deaths come. It's slowly, but other places, are calling up deaths and stuff, but we don't know how long this sits in this for. We don't. There's no information. Like it could be 2 months. No, it could be 3 months. It could be no, it could be quick. We don't know. We don't know. We really don't. And that's the worst of it is because we don't have so much. We have very little information to go on, but we're watching the world, and China, like the stock markets were just boy like a couple of days ago, but then China came along and injected $174 billion into the economy just so things would just barely float in the green. But they're not gaining anything. Nobody's investing anything in there. There's no transportation in, out, to, from, nothing commercial anywhere. Like whatever's going in there is army, military, world health, like that kind of stuff. FEMA, whatever, Red Cross, I don't know, but that's what it would be, right? It's not. There's nothing commercial, nothing. Apple pulled all their manufacturing out of there, everything. Like they're done. Like that's not going to just start back up again. Even if they got this under control tomorrow, it would literally take months before everybody went back to work. Like to clean up on this and the logistical disaster, even on like on your I guess municipal grid, like your water, your sewer, your garbage, like the morgue, like the morgue. I gotta think. There's only one morgue over there in Wuhan. That's actually true. It's a city of like 11 million people, but there's only one place. But it must be big. Anyways, it's crazy. The magnitude of this, and I don't think a lot of people get it, and they're not really, they just show pictures of empty streets in the cities now in the news, and, but yes, everybody's kind of freaked out, and I think it wasn't mandatory quarantine in these other cities. Everybody just kind of did it on their own. Everybody's like, fuck that, I'm not going outside. Shanghai and like now like Hong Kong's going, like they got confirmed deaths in Hong Kong now, and like there's it's huge, right? And for the World Health Organization, they got to get all this data from all these countries, and not just countries, but from every level of government, provincial and then federal, and bump it out like there's a chain. There's a chain that is followed for this information to get to the top, and then they got to analyze it and overanalyze it, and then make a decision, right? And then they base it upon protocol. So it's not about humanitarian things, and they're like, oh yes, we know the bleeding hearts goes, yeah, well, we got to look at the numbers on this. You're a number right now. You're a statistic on a piece of paper, and they're weighing the options on humanity, in my opinion, because this thing looks vicious. It really does. It's totally taken over China. Like it really has. They're like, it's just wiped that place right. It's it. It'll clearly affected everyone, and there's no cure for this. People are saying, well, they found a vaccine, or they're sending trial drugs over there to fight the. No, it's not. It's therapeutic. It's only therapeutic. It's symptomatic things. You're not cured by any means. And the hospitals in China, there was a video I watched, and when people have to get queued, like it's a massive queue to get in this hospital. So you got to go there, and then you got to get a certificate, and then once you get the certificate, then you get to go, but you still don't get to see a doctor, kind of thing, and they don't have enough tests to be testing people, so they're resorting to this different testing method that uses, I guess, it's not sophisticated, but even if you're positive, it doesn't dig deep enough to find out if you are, kind of thing. So that you can only peg them as suspected if they take this test. But the nurse was saying, like she said flat out, she said, we do this test and I can tell who's got it. You would be able to tell, but you can't. So they can't confirm it on paper. And I guess where I was going with that was, there's only limited testing kits at this time there. Like they have sent more out, and but you got to think there's cities where millions and millions and millions and millions of people in the healthcare system are already bottlenecked beyond anything you could believe. And the nurse claiming that in her small hospital alone, there's 1 or 2 deaths a day, and she said it was just a small hospital. But, and claiming like you imagine like the bigger hospitals, and they know that the government was straight out lying to them. She was cursing the government. Like I don't know, it seemed very, very genuine. Nobody put that much emotion and realism into a fake video. I've seen fake videos and people suck at usually most of them, like if it's a person involved doing something, like people are shitty actors most of the time, right? So, but you can tell people's demeanor in the whole situation. I don't know if that's exactly the words that they're saying, but it would flow exactly like that, So, it's concerning. We're not being told because the World Health Organization looks at us or the powers that be, and they're like, well, we can't tell them. They're so stupid, and they'll all freak out, and oh, we can't do that because then the markets will stop. Well, if you don't be honest with people, you're gonna lose it. We're looking at China, and their government duped them, but we're I don't think so much duping people as waiting on for an excessive amount of data before any decisions are made. And in that time, the window is closing, right? And he stressed that so many times. He said the window's closing. The windows, you only have a limited amount of time. So let's go back into another thing that I wanted to bring up, where they ask about the cover-up in China. Actually, there was one before that. I didn't mark what this one was, but we're gonna. It must have been important because I wrote down the time.
Contradicts the WHO's current recommendations. Is that kind of a response from the UK and other countries proportionate and could actually make things worse? And then my second question just has to do with a comments by John McKenzie, a member of your EC today in the FT, who said that China's response to the outbreak in its early stages was, quote, reprehensible, and that they were hiding cases while there were political meetings in Wuhan. Could you comment on both of those?
Before that, thank you, Jamie. Before that, I will just repeat the question for journalists online because we don't have a mic here. So the first question was about the measures introduced by some countries and advice given by the UK government to the nationals to leave the country, to leave China, sorry. And the second question was about the comments that have been made by one of the members of the EC committee regarding China response. So I will see who would like to take this question.
I can start with the first question. Yes, certainly, as the DG has said, at this moment in time, we need to have calm, well thought out public health measures that protect individuals' health. And I think each country is making assessments based on their own individual risk assessments to their citizens around this event. However, certainly a situation where many individuals are potentially leaving the country, we don't believe those individuals are necessarily at the highest risk. But it's certainly an unplanned measure like that needs to be accompanied with the necessary screening and the necessary public health measures to ensure that. So the issue here is the balance between the measure to protect citizens and the balance of the public health risk protection to protect other citizens, and each country has to make that balance themselves. But we are monitoring all public health measures, and we've been doing a systematic review over the last 48 hours of all measures taken by all member states, and we will be sharing our assessment of those measures with member states and sharing with other member states exactly what everybody else has been doing, and try and bring some cohesion and order to that process in the coming days.
There's anyways, we'll go into the China cover up here where you asked the question. But you know what, that means like they're there's they're evaluating the situation still. They're evaluating, they're getting data, they're analyzing what the other countries are doing in response to this. And then in the next coming days, we could be seeing some, like some big action, or even in the next coming hours, because this is going to develop quite fast, and we know that it is, right? It's always evolving. There's always something coming out, and I'm always trying to keep everybody as current as possible, and throwing my own you know my own reality in there as well, because it has to be. We have to speculate.
Like other countries in the neighborhood or beyond. So I think that is very important to consider. On the second one, first of all, John is not a member of WHO. He's not a staff of WHO. I think there could be a problem in the newspaper. It says a member of WHO. It's not. So I think it's good if they correct the facts.
Okay, but he says he's not a member of WHO, but he is an IP, which is like he's like an emergency response personnel person who does have credibility, but he might, they just wanted to make sure to say, well, he's not a member of our board, which he might not be, but he is, a governmental official who is claiming, that China covered this up. So let's just continue to listen.
And the second comment I have is, I cannot say they hide or they didn't. But if you see
blah blah blah, that's all we need to know, right? Really. He can't say if they did suppress it or if they didn't. Of course he can't. He can't just come out on national TV without any concrete data and say, yeah, they suppressed it. Even if you might have a good sense that they suppressed it, and you have other public officials, at the highest levels of response outbreaks. I'm not sure what the IG is, international, or I don't know, something, but there's so many of these, acronyms that they're throwing around as they keep track of them all. Excuse me. But it is, you have these people saying, hey, and even Time magazine, or not Time, but, CNN, the whistleblower doctor, like they, yes, he was arrested. Yes, they did tell the citizens not to, film anything to do with the epidemic or so they did cover it up, obviously. You know what I mean? They did, and this guy was talking about it before China went to the World Health Organization. Actually, the same day, same day, or probably very close to it. After this event happened where they arrested the doctors, and then the Public Health Commission, they all got word of this, and they knew the doctors were arrested. Like the public health system there, and they're kind of healthcare professionals, so they seen what was going on, and they raised the alarm on it, and then China couldn't contain it anymore. Couldn't say, well, we can't keep this under wraps. Everybody's talking about it now, So they went to the World Health Organization and said, hey, yeah, okay, we got something going on here, because, but hey, there's, it's very, very, wow. And then, Chinese state media was broadcasting ridiculous. I was watching them, and it's from, China's public. Oh, it's, and one of the things they said, they were trying to, the stock market's open for the first time on the oh my goodness, I can't remember what date, but they were closed since the 23rd, the day that they locked Wuhan down. And anyways, they opened again a couple of weeks later. Then they coincidentally come out with this statement the day before the markets open, and they're giving people advice on how to stay safe in China, like the China state media, is a public. This was a message from their government to say, when you're traveling in in buses and trains, and and in close quarters, keep away from people, and keep the windows open. The buses that are in colder regions, they have to stop every 2 hours and air out the bus. That was their security guide, given to the people. The people weren't going back to work. No, they weren't. That's just the media releasing this, kind of giving the world maybe the official statement saying, well, everything's good, we're all going back to work, it's Chinese New Year's over, back to business. Markets are opening tomorrow. We're only going to take $174 billion of our assets and liquidate them and pump that money into the market. And that's what they did. They confiscated, or they seized the central bank's assets and liquidated them. So basically, they pawned all their shit. That's what they did, and they put all this money in the biggest dump in one day in history into the stock market, and that's why the stocks kind of, they're floating right now. They're still kind of green, other two, but they dropped 7% after like they declared a state of emergency, and they just kept dropping. China said, well, we got to put this back. It will affect the markets, but it's putting a band-aid on a broken leg. Like they just took all their money and threw it in the fire. Because it's only going to sit there for so long, and the markets are going to fall because people are pulling out. Factories aren't working. Companies are taking all their business elsewhere. It's I don't know if it's like the biggest goddamn hoax or whatever or something, like almost so. And I know, I get it. Like World Health Organization confirmation statements and say, well, this is the way it is without any facts, and that's what's going to kill us, literally. The longer we wait, the more people that are dying. It's just the way it is. And they're looking at you like a statistical analysis. Well, it's a number. You're a number right now, and you always were, regardless if you want to know. But now you're definitely a statistical number. This is like, well, so many percent of the population will die if we just let this burn out. Maybe we just let this burn out. Or like, can they contain it? That's another thing. Are we throwing too much resources at China for something that is far gone? That's another thing you got to think about, because like we can't stop the spread of this, especially in China. The rest of the world might have a chance, really, but I think China is. I don't know. No, I hope they're doing goddamn work up there at the top, and I bet you they're earning their money now. But I don't think they know what to do in this situation. Following protocol, and even though protocol might be hell, and we know it is at times, and you can't, sometimes you got a little bit of intuition, because it's only getting, it's all over the globe now. I'm gonna go up here and chill up here with the polar bears. It's global warming, so it's getting nice up there now. Yeah, who knows, right? Where it's heading. And everybody's worried. We're all kind of worried, and we're all kind of, I think the world is watching now. I think this cruise ship is what's going to gain the world. I'm surprised it hasn't been on every news media outlet. If they got like a killer on the loose, and if they're looking for somebody, holy Jesus, it's one killer and he killed 4 people. The whole goddamn planet is involved. Everybody's glued to their TV and glued to Twitter for updates, and this here is just like, oh, no, going on here, nothing to see here, just one of the. But it is going to be something to see here, once these tests start rolling back in, and I'm sure they have the results. They got the tests, they got the first test back pretty quick. Like the first 31 came back really fast. They have the results have to be rolling out on some level. Whether the media is finding out. Or they're, just kind of keeping this hush or whatever. I don't know, but you got a third of the results that came back, and all these people were positive. They took 200. They took the test from the suspected, the Japanese fella on board, or well, yeah. They took his test, and then they took 30 others. The results were 31. Came back, and 10 people, regardless of their age. Because it is, it's a luxury cruise, and they're all going to be retirees on there mostly. So, yeah, 31 out of 273 samples, random samples they took. I guess, yeah, 273, and out of the first 31 that came back from the lab, 10 of them tested positive. And we know now that this thing, you can test negative and then test positive. If they know that because a woman from Vancouver, or sorry, not Vancouver, from right here, a woman in her 20s is confirmed by the health officials third case of coronavirus in Friday. Right, so it says here the patient returned from Wuhan, China, which is said to be the epicenter of the outbreak. She took a private vehicle to London, Ontario, to her home. Officials say the woman was asymptomatic, meaning that she was well, she wasn't showing any symptoms when she arrived on January 21st, or 23rd, excuse me. However, they said she began to exhibit symptoms of the virus the next day. So on the 24th, she went to the hospital, and she tested positive. Now, what the most important thing is down here is, excuse me. The woman originally tested negative for the virus. However, after additional testing, found to be positive. So she was on a flight that came on, and now she's got it too, right? Like, we don't know how, this could stick around for, we don't know anything about it. We don't. And whether the tests are not being completely accurate, maybe this is very hard to detect. And of course it is, it's invisible. We can't see it. We don't know how fast it's spreading in the rest of the world, but we know the numbers skyrocketing in China, and we can forget it with the numbers. This is says a lot more than numbers. That's that's a spike, and it's going up, 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 not going anywhere else, and that's very concerning. And we know that the numbers are totally bottlenecked at every possible in transit and everything coming out of China. Yeah, so let's go. Yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot, and like, where do you start? Like, I got so much information and brain floating around. It's just so now we're gonna move. Okay, yeah, we'll move to 28:50. Matthew 28:15.
This window of opportunity to really invest in prevention, to invest in control, and prevent this virus from spreading. It's time to act, not to speculate and spread fear.
You know what I mean? You can't tell people not to speculate. The human nature is, to ask questions. We fear what we don't know. That's what we don't understand this. We don't, and they don't. Nobody knows. And then they're saying, time is of the essence. We have to act now. Okay, but what is actually happening? You just keep sending supplies over. It's like a forest fire. We got a forest fire burning. If it's out of control, and what do you do? Do you let it burn out, or do you throw every kind of resource at it that you have? And you know what I mean? But we have an advantage as humans. The trees can't really segregate themselves from other trees. Great analogy. But we can put ourselves indoors, right? Got mobility. We have a half a brain sometimes. So, anyways, stressing that it's very vital to get this, act now. And I'm sure we're going to get a very big statement here coming up very soon. Like, they are waiting on data, right? And they're saying don't spread rumors, which is, of course he's got to say that because they're flying, speculation, flying. But there's factual based data backing these speculations. It's a theory. Science works with theory. Like we're deductive. We're taking reason. We're taking information and we're pulling it. Or I am, and I'm putting it. Hopefully not too overboard, but it's facts, and it's like, well, I've been watching this unfold, and it's just amazing. Like lack of response, in my opinion. Growing yet, they're doing stuff for other countries that are don't know what's going on in these smaller places. Maybe it's not being reported much because they already have healthcare. Right? They don't have the means of testing for We don't know where exactly this is. I almost imagine like Asia is going to be worst hit. But there's a lot of small villages through there. A lot. Some of them don't have communication. Man. No, they are ancient. So that's another thing. Easy to get in those villages if somebody goes to town or goes to market or do whatever. They aren't completely cut off, but they. And if one of them brought something back, well, it would affect the whole village fast. Cruise ship, for example, we had one person. We had one person infect a whole cruise ship, essentially. Or so the report goes. They were concerned about this one person. Now look at this. Have you seen or experienced discrimination connected to coronavirus? I can't even believe I'm going there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, people are. It's not discrimination. It's self-preservation. It's protection. Like, I'm sorry, I went shopping the other day and I seen person I thought maybe they have a family member connected, but they were of Asian descent, but that doesn't matter about their descent or their race or anything. It matters what you're carrying, possibly. We don't know. We can't see this. It's not like people just got this cloud around them and then it's like, oh, I don't know, that person's got it. We don't know. But we're taking precautions. That's natural. And then they're saying, well, you guys are being racist. Like, fuck off, being racist. Some people might use this, just as a fuel for the fire who are naturally people. But for the majority, it's not people racist. And I'm sorry, but like the Chinese and the Asian are in that kind of situation right now. But it's a special situation. It's not like people hate them, or it's about protection. Some people probably feel hatred, but that's can't. I don't think the majority of the world is this as a racial fucking standpoint. Like, come on. Yeah. So disorganized. U.S. evacuee describes landing in California after flight from Wuhan. She said it's so disorganized. Sounds like she's of, Dingji Zhu. So, like, I don't know what these people are doing. She said so disorganized. Like, and then basically she was just complaining about the wait time on the tarmac. And they were saying about like the possible spread of illness on the flight. Well, like I can't believe you're even complaining about that. You've been saying it's so disorganized. Well, I think you could do a job in organizing it. Maybe we should put her at the top of the table. But I'm sure people are doing their best, and nobody's ever really dealt with this before. Got to take that into consideration. They've simulated this, and they've looked at it statistically and numbers and ran simulations through computers, but they've never actually done real life situation on this scale before. They're it's just never been done. You're gonna have to take money completely out of the equation. You have to bite the bullet and say fuck it. And all commodities, everything is just gonna have to become available. That's it. You can't charge people in a situation like this. Even Putin, Putin from Russia, like pharmacies were up in the price on masks and all this stuff, and he said they're gonna lose their licenses if they take advantage. And 100%, I agree with him. I think I don't know. Maybe he's the one putting the prices up and just blaming it on people. You don't know. Speculate. But let's hope people realize the gravity of the situation. Don't turn this into an economic thing. Try to fucking make a buck off this. And that's people. Certain companies, healthcare companies, just be drooling over this right now. You know what I mean? But I really, I don't know. I think once people realize the gravity of the situation, I think people, and there it is. There, Putin calls for pharmacies hiking prices to be punished. Yeah. Airbus closes assembly line in China. And like they're pulling out. They're just not shutting it down. Like they're pulling out and taking business elsewhere. Um, Singapore's hotel has potential linked cases outside China. Business conference in Singapore has been tied to coronavirus cases in South Korea and Malaysia, prompting a multinational query into transmission of the virus. One Malaysian and two South Korean men have been diagnosed with the virus after attending an international gathering at a Singapore hotel mid-January. Health authorities from the involved countries are now working with the World Health Organization to tackle the case. World Health Organization said it is aware that the multinational cases may have epidemiological links. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, they're the same. So, based on current information, there's not enough evidence um, of effective and sustained. You know what I mean? Okay, so 41-year-old Malaysian man is the country's first citizen to track the coronavirus. And Wednesday, South Korea's Center for Control and Prevention confirmed infections in two South Korean men in their 30s who attended Singapore meeting along with the man. Oh, it's almost the case of Germany, right? The woman flew from Shanghai. She went to Germany. She infected the partners. She wasn't very symptomatic. On later questioning, she said, "Well, I kind of was, feeling not the great, But it's not like she was just like drooling out the nose and like sneezing and coughing, like professional business partners like that. She probably, so it was very limited symptoms that she was showing when it happened, and she effectively affected them, and they went on to infect coworkers. So it's you know what I mean. It's big. The reports are coming out, but then you got the World Health Organization saying, well, we're waiting on data. We need to look at this data a little bit more and examine it a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more time, and a little bit more time. You know what I mean? That's what China did. Regardless of how China procrastinated or waited, why they waited, or why they covered it up or whatever. It was still time taken away. And look at them. You know what I mean? And the whole, China didn't start out with a great big dot. It would have started with one little dot. So, everybody. It progresses super fast. Super fast. And I think every moment is vital. And when we're waiting on these statistical, factual, procedural policies to determine our fate here. So yeah. Quite an unfolding situation here. And what we know so far, let's go check out maybe yeah, there's still no release of information on the new tests, that they're waiting on. They took 273 originally, and out of the 31 that came back, 10 were positive.
Daddy,
So
I gotta show you.
okay, I'm gonna take a break here in a minute anyway. So yeah, like it's a big thing, right? And it's like I think they're way under. I don't know if that's the actual. It would seem not dressed for the occasion. I don't know, but what we know is that it's definitely a situation.
Daddy.
Biohazard. There's the tests. Wow, eh? She's serious, ladies and gentlemen, and it's gonna be something unfolding here, major, I believe, in the next moments, days to come. So
Daddy, the
stick around.
sickness is over.
Hey, thanks for sticking around if you did. Um, yeah, it's a shit show, and these guys are shit in the bed. I think, in my opinion, like, um, it's a statistical analysis game right now. It really is, and I think they're trying to weigh everything. It's a big job for them for sure. To make public announcements, but we can all understand that everything is pointing to the fact that China covered this up. Um, and then, you know, they can't they can't confirm if they did or if they didn't. But they got a they arrested the doctors. Dr. Lee, you know what I mean? Like, he was the first one that came out on this, and the world's going to remember this guy. In China right now, he's a hero, and the state media retracted the original broadcast, from even the courts. The courts in China, like the highest court there, even said, if people would have listened to this conspiracy theory earlier, a lot of this could have been avoided. But then they retracted that, right? But it was too late. A lot of the people already heard this over in China, and everybody's like, fuck the government, right? Everybody over there. And you think they're going to listen to they're just going to rebel against that government because they lied to them. Those people need to be taken out of power, and another figure or figures go in there and basically take over take over the operations. And I'm sure probably that's, World Health is probably on the way to doing that if they can. We don't know if China's a too far gone situation. And you're saying, oh fuck, there's only 24,000 numbers. I bet you there's 24,000 numbers in some of these small villages or some of these small towns and cities, not including the big cities. They can't test for them. But the World Health Organization said they sent 250,000 independent tests that, they did. So, how long is it going to take to do 250,000 tests? Too long. Time we don't have, right? But, again, they got to get a statistical overview on this and plug in the numbers. And the numbers that they're plugging in are not, they're shit, really, because they're not, we're basing all our data off whatever China is, China's the one who's got the most cases. This is where it's affecting the most. The rest of the world is just kind of, just creeping out of the door. But China, the door's wide open, and the floodgates are open, and it's we're depending on accurate information from them. And everybody's saying, hey, it's this thing's gonna keep just going, like, but then you got the World Health Organization waiting on data analysis. We don't want to make any decisions unless we got some concrete evidence, and then when we get that concrete evidence, most likely, run the test again. Right? And it's a shitty situation, because I think the government's time to act was a long time ago, and China did the same thing. Right? They waited, but they waited for other reasons. They covered it up. So, and there's the actual police report that he signed saying that you would stop spreading lies and rumors when they arrested him. The doctor, and he's up there in the left hand corner of my stream. Dr. Lee, and so he's got coronavirus now, and he's gonna die. Like, he is like really like on the edge of just dying. So it's a sad thing, right? And nobody can prove that China covered it up for sure. The World Health Organization even they even said we can't confirm or deny that China covered this up, which means they don't got enough evidence to say that they did, but there's a lot of speculation to believe that they actually did. So it's terrible, but this cruise ship, I think, is it's a godsend in a sense. I really do. It's the people on there. It's a sad situation, but they're going to get a lot of vital data off this, because that basically is quarantined now for 2 weeks. No, it's not going nowhere. Nobody's going off. They're taking the most affected, the most sick off, which, I don't know. I kind of disagree with that move, but what do I know, right? I don't know. I just played a lot of video games, and if I, I'd rather keep the zombies on the boat, if instead of bringing them into land, if that's where I was. And to talk like that, I'm not being any kind of disrespectful, but it's I'm just putting it into a term I hope everybody's kind of gonna get a hold of. You just, yes, they got better equipment and analysis in land, of course they do, but we don't know anything about this. Are the proper safety measures being taken? Like, you got people in this picture down here that look like they're well underdressed, or actually, was it over here? Yeah, you got these, like, I think this is, well, that looks like yeah, that's Japanese. So, I think it is the cruise ship because it's got the yellow. Like, these guys, we don't know if, like, it gets through the eyes, like, if it gets in, like, we don't know. Like, they could be, infected. I'm sure, like, they're suited up as best as they can be, but, we don't have any data on how infectious, other than, like, it, what we're seeing unfold in the world, and it's spreading rapidly, right? So, are they, it's so many unknowns, right? And, like, they could just be, like, pulling this stuff right in with them, right? It could be all over the outside of that container. Could be all over his gloves, all over those straps. You know what I mean? It's like cross-contamination if you're doing food safety for, even restaurant. Like, if you're handling food. You don't put red meat where you're, uncooked meat or uncooked chicken where you're going to cut your salad, right? And the cross-contamination, you could just look at it from those measures, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure they're following the best protocols that they can, but nobody's ever really dealt with, like, the gravity of this before, right? And especially being so unknown. They've had the genome now for like a month and a half from China, and they still don't know anything about where it came from. And you got the world's best minds coming together and saying, well, we don't really know where it came from either, and it doesn't really look natural. It seems like it's unnatural. Right, so, and it's definitely unnatural in the sense, like, of this situation. And everybody's kind of waking up to the fact now that, this is serious. And I think this cruise ship is going to blow this wide open. It's going to take people to the next level. It's going to capture the world's attention. Now, whether it's going to panic the world or, and I'm still waiting for figures to come out on the other tests on this, and I'll do an update if they do. So the medical test can take 48 to 60 hours. Or wait. The health ministry disclosed criteria Tuesday for the discharge of coronavirus patients from the medical facilities in the nation. Patients will be discharged from the hospital once they clear medical tests taken 48 and 60 hours after symptoms cease. Okay, I don't know. Anyways, that's just a bunch of blah blah. You can try to say that you're gonna do that, but your healthcare systems, it's stressed right to the max. You got the Hong Kong, all, like, most of the nurses and everybody in Hong Kong are all on strike. Where's your healthcare? How are you gonna do all these things you say you're gonna do? You don't have the people to do it. Nobody wants to take this risk. People are coming into the hospital in Hong Kong affected with this stuff. Those workers don't want to get that. They're all on strike. They're like, the hell with this. No, we're done. And I don't blame them. They're not really qualified for doing this stuff, but it's scary for them. It's right on their doorstep. It is. So it's a lot of unknowns, right? And I think this cruise ship's going to give us, or hopefully give the World Health Organization or the powers that be enough to go on to make some actual fucking actions here. Like, they're taking actions in China, but it's only just spreading everywhere else, and they say, well, the numbers are really low. Well, we can't see this. We don't know who has it, who might have it, who's sick and just not going to the hospital. Like, it's not like every person who's sick is just going to go to the hospital who has this. Maybe only 10% of the people who are sick are going to go to the hospital. Like, I'm sure And, they're probably scared now. If somebody gets sick, it's like, fuck that, I'm not going to the hospital. Jesus Christ, they'll put me in quarantine. You know, you got to realize that too. Like, we're not getting the numbers, but we're going to get the numbers here. And, it's almost like a model situation where, like they could upscale this and lay it out on a bigger scale so that, they can kind of get a handle on how this is behaving. I hope that they're doing that. I'm sure they are. They probably taking every data analysis that they can at this point, and I'm sure every resource is probably at this point, because this is where we're going to find out how it behaves and transmission and kind of things like that, right? Because we haven't had any big cases outside of China, just China's information, what they're telling us. And let's say, like that's very, very worrisome that there was 273 tests that were done. 31 came back. It's just 273 random tests, including the guy that they suspected. And then 30 tests came back plus his. And the first test to come back, there was 10 people. So that's a third of the people that tested positive for this out of, you could almost say half the people on here are infected or more. And they're only quarantined on there. They're only going to, it's just a cesspool. Like, really, it's going through the ventilation systems. It's, traveling through the air supply. We don't know if this is how airborne this is. We don't know, but they're going to find out, I think. And this is going to grab the world's attention right here. And I think that was, as sad as it is, for the situation of the people on there, for the rest of the world, this just, is going to give us copious amounts of data for making decisions, I guess, because that's what they got to do. They need data to make decisions. To hell with, intuition or, looking at a situation and say, well, that's pretty bad. Well, run the numbers on that again just to make sure. And that's what, unfortunately, I laugh fucking, but it's a serious situation. And there's so much news. There really is. But anyway, I'm going to end this stream here, and I'm going to start up again after. You know what I mean? There's going to be lots of updates coming out. We're going to go over some more latest news and keep up to date on this as possible. And how and just go over everything. Yeah. So thanks for watching. Share this if you care. If you think anybody benefit from this, or if anybody you think needs information, because we're not getting any information, and it's we have to, I think, use our own intuition here now, because they're not going to be making any decisions unless there's, well, we have to just take care of ourselves, I think. So anyways, thanks for watching. We'll be going again live. Sub for this, hit the bell, whatever. I don't know how to use all that stuff, but get the notifications if you want to keep up to date. Appreciate it. Peace.